one of these kinds of cards that slots into your red X whatever self-burn type of decks, your stuffy dolls, your swans.
Guys and gals, it's time to sunset our Spider-Man release with one of our favorite episodes that we do here on the show. It is the Cards You Missed show, where we go over some of the most exciting cards that are in the lower rarities that you might have missed throughout the spoiler season. These days, spoiler season goes by really quickly. We have new sets every 2 months. It's hard to keep up with. That's what we're here for. Don't worry about it. We've found all of the cards that you need to know about that are uncommons and lower, so that when you get to your pre-releases, when you're looking at building new decks, all of that, you know what cards have the juice in them according to us. And who are we, you might be asking? Well, my name's Joseph. I'm here with the MTG Thoughtcast at my desk. And across your screen, or across your ears, is my brother John, other half of the MTG Thoughtcast. John, are you ready to talk about some cards that the good people at home might have missed today?
I'm ready to thwip it real good.
Oh, thwip it, baby.
Woo! Kapow! Slammo! Whoop-oo.
This is famously our casual episode as we as we sunset and we end. It's more like sundowning, if anything. But man, this one, I'm curious. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about all this, John, because this was, as we know, a smaller set. So we've in the past had a lot more card pool to dig from for some cards that maybe are worded strangely, or you need to read a couple of times to understand what they do. But this was a much smaller pool. Did you have a hard time finding cards to talk about today, or are you ripping and ready to go?
It took a little bit of extra digging than normal, but yeah, I think there's still some very good juice to be had here. Some very exciting things for your commander decks.
Nice. Well, John, if anybody wants to brew some commander decks, where might they want to go? What corner of the internet should they go to?
You should be sure to swing right on in to our Discord channel, where we have chats and conversations and brewery threads open for all things Magic, plus just hanging out, chill times, memes, gaming, and things of that nature on our Discord channel. Totally free to join. Just follow the link in the description box down below.
Absolutely. I'm hanging out there all the time, posting some gaming stuff right now. I've been playing through Blueprints. That's been my obsession right now. So you probably hear me talking about that over there, but also brewing plenty of commander decks with these Spider-Man cards. If you're building these Spider-Man cards and you need to protect your deck, we could recommend nobody other than Heavy Play, sponsor of the show. You can go to heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast to get 10% off of your first order. These are some unbelievable gaming accessories, like some magnetic dice boxes, deck boxes that clip together, and then both of those clip to the playmat system that they've got going on. It's awesome. Go over there, check it out. Use code MTG Thoughtcast at checkout, or follow the link down below, heavyplay.com/MTG Thoughtcast. Shout out to them. Today's show is brought to you in part by them, as always. That's all the upkeep for today. That's all we've got going on, John. We've got some stuff to talk about here. Spider-Man has some very exciting rares, mythics, legendary creatures across the board that have been taking up a lot of the spotlight in the mainstream. If you're on Reddit or et cetera, or on our Discord on the spoilers page. Shout out our Discord.
You all know how the Soul Stone is going to end up being at this point. We all know how stupid that's going to end up being. But on a show like this, on this kind of episode, we're here to dive down into some of the lower rarity items, things that like the commons and uncommons that you may just skim by at first as you're opening up your booster packs, but there is some very interesting synergies, plays, and just our biggest thing we like to talk about here, the flexibility of cards, right? My
#flexibility.
Yeah, my go-to philosophy, and the thing we've talked about on this show a lot of times before, is that cards built into your decks must have good purpose. And even though, yes, this is also kind of like talking about like power creep, like you would just be neglecting an important part of the game if you're not evaluating new sets as they come out and see, hey, this is something I already play, or this type of card is something I use in decks. Maybe I should add this one too. Or maybe this is just a replacement for something you're already playing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that's enough talking about it, and I think we should start talking about some cards and some text on cards. And I can think of none better to start off with, and I'm curious if this is on your list too, John. I want to talk about Rhino's Rampage.
Oh, that was my number one hit.
I can't stop thinking about how good this card is.
Go for it, dude.
Rhino's Rampage is an uncommon. It's a sorcery for a hybrid Gruul mana. So we're talking about a singular mana. Keep that in mind as I talk about what the rest of this card does. It says target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It fights target creature an opponent controls. When excess damage is dealt to the creature an opponent controls this way, destroy up to one target non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. This is like a billion cards just smashed together in one singular mana in a sorcery. This is crack, dude. I mean, it's very, very good. There's obviously some setup involved. You have to have a good creature, like a large boy in play to begin with. And you need to have something across the field that you would like to take out with less toughness than your biggest creature's power +1 to get full value out of this. But if you're doing that, like let's say your commander's a 3/3 and there's a Birds of Paradise sitting around, and you're like, you know what I want to do? I want to get rid of that bird. So you play Rhino's Rampage on your 3/3. It shoots down the bird. The best part here, this is the exciting part, the owner of the creature that's getting fought does not have to be the owner of the artifact. So you could look anywhere else and find a Soul Ring, a Skull Clamp. You could find, what's your favorite 1-drop artifact? Altar the Brood.
Altar the Brood. Ashnod's Altar, Basalt Monolith, Voltaic Keys,
this is true.
Mox Opals. You know what I mean?
This is so good. And again, obviously there's setup, but the setup is like the game has happened. So this is obviously not a card that you're playing on turn 1. But man, on turn 3, turn 4, we talk about quadrant theory here sometimes on how like where in the game do cards fit, either early game, late game, when you're ahead or when you're behind. And this fits most of those. If you're behind, this is a 2-for-1. This is perfect. It's one card to take out a creature and an artifact. If you're ahead, this just solidifies that you're ahead. This removal is never a bad thing to have in hand. And boy, is it's just so good. That extra power is like whatever. I like that they tacked that on there. But
I actually think that's one of the best parts about what this card is that it means at worst case scenario, a 1/1 can trade up to like a 2/2 at least. That like even if you don't deal excess damage, or even just like 1/1, like if you've got a 1/1 and they have a 1/1, the extra 1 point of power that this card provides means that you can still capitalize on the bottom part of that card, even if your own creature is dying on the crackpad as well. I suppose that's one of the downsides of this, like A, obviously being a sorcery, but 2, because it's also directly fighting, meaning that other creature will be assigning damage back to the one that you choose as well. But even then, right, this is one spell from your hand and one creature from your field to take care of a creature on their field and another non-creature artifact on theirs as well. So that's
anywhere else.
1-to-1 card exchange. Like even that is not dreadful.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the floor for this is really, really good. It reminds me a bit of Dreadmaw's Ire. I don't know if you remember this card. This was from Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
Yep.
It's a red instant that gives an attacking creature +2/+2 trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact that player controls. I've had this card sitting in like the maybe boards of so many decks and just gone like, I don't know. It's not like you have to be attacking. It has to deal the damage. That player has to have an artifact. There's a lot of setup for this. And I feel like Rhino's Rampage just really takes what I love about Dreadmaw's Ire and what I've been trying to figure out what to do with it and puts it into a really usable card. Let alone if you have anything that cares about fighting. I know there's plenty of fight decks out there. I know that, you've got your Wolverines and et cetera. What's the one that, what's the other one? What's the other fight one?
A really good fight one, at least the one I know off Dome, is Naiath of the Dire Hunt.
That's what I meant. Yeah, the ones that fight.
That one's
really good in a dinosaur deck that has enrage triggers where you want that damage to be coming back to you. Anything like that, Rhino's Rampage is going to be a slammer in. Definitely be looking to pick up some of these for your red and green decks with big creatures that care about destroying things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, I took your number one, but
no,
what's next?
That's okay.
What else
that's
you got?
Quite all right. That's why we both make our own lists, and because each of us might have different cards identified as things that are like, hey, this is a huge hit. So why don't I go ahead and piggyback from that? Is let's say your opponent has done Rhino's Rampage and is attempting to fight your creature. We love the sort of protection spells. We love the things that give a thing like hexproof or indestructible or shroud or whatever for a turn to keep it safe. But the problem sometimes lands with those cards is that they only serve that one purpose as a protection spell. And of course, like we've been talking about, the flexibility of a card to be able to do more for you in that deck, since you only have the one copy of it, means numbers. And so if you can tack a protection spell onto a pump spell that you can use it for different purposes, that's the card's Secret Identity.
Ooh, okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. I remember which one this was.
Yeah, Secret Identity is a single blue for an instant. You get to choose between one of two different modes. Either Conceal, which is until end of turn, a target creature you control becomes a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and gains hexproof, or Reveal, and until end of turn, a target creature you control becomes a hero with base power and toughness 3/4 and gains flying and vigilance.
Yeah, this is really good. The flying and vigilance, plus boosting the power and toughness to 3/4 for a single mana at instant speed.
Base power toughness 3/4. This is the kind of thing we've talked about before, all kinds over the last year or so. There's like when something has its base power and toughness modified, anything else that is currently already applying to that creature is now being added on top of. So let's say this is a creature of yours that's got 1/1 counters thrown onto it to some capacity, right? Well, did we not, like we talked about last episode, I built that deck that was the Iron Spider that put a bunch of 1/1 counters on things. Let's say you've got that into a blue artifact shell. Any artifact creature or a creature of some kind with the counters on it, you modify its base power and toughness to be a 3/4. The 1/1 counters will still stack on top of that, so you could exponentially grow a creature. But then the point that I was talking about is that when you don't need this to be a combat evasion style card, it also acts as a hexproof piece, which in 9 times out of 10, a spot removal or a targeted instance of some capacity, giving your creature hexproof is on the same level of equivalence as granting indestructible. Not always the case 1-to-1, but in 9 times out of 10, if your thing is getting targeted, hexproof will solve that problem for you.
Yeah, I would say the average deck has more targeted removal than it does board wipes. So I'm agreeing with your math on this.
Mm-hmm. And it's just it's neat. Again, you may include a card like this and will always end up being one of the two modes for you 9 times out of 10, but just having the option to do another piece like that, because like I was talking about, an issue with holding up just protection spells in your hand is if somebody is not running interaction, then you're kind of wasting a card slot in your hand for something that is never going to happen. So a card like this that gives you the option to play more aggressive when you know you're not going to need that hexproof is a very nice piece to have. Plus, genuinely speaking, this is actually probably one of the best artworks in the set, I want to say.
Dude, yeah, the lore with this artwork, how it's unmasked and it's the same artist. They just brought them back to do what is unmasking Peter Parker. It's so sick, dude. I really like this. If you're like the type of villain in your play group who's playing infect creatures, this is the type of card that you want to see in your deck, because you will get targeted for having infect creatures, which is the protection helps from. And then when you need to get those last few points of poison through with infect, that 3/4 flying and vigilance is going to be huge for that. We've seen this effect before, but it's pretty rare that they give us evasion on top of giving a power boost to it. So the fact that this can bring a 1/1 with Infect up to being a 3/4 with Flying Vigilance and Infect for a single mana, and then you can boost it up from there. Again, if you're playing Infect, you're playing your your pump spells, your giant growth style cards, and your extra equipments and auras and things like that. So this just gives you an extra little boost to take someone out of the game in that style of deck, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, not to mention as well, by the way, the changing into a hero 3/4 flying and vigilance, that doesn't necessarily read as playing aggressive because this spell is an instant speed. You could also use that defensively. Right?
Oh my god,
if your opponent sees, do you have any flyers? I don't yet. Wait until my spider hero shows up, and then you're screwed.
Yep, 100%. Well, speaking of evasion and some shenanigans, I want to talk about Shriek Troublemaker. This is a banger, dude. The evasion here is pretty loose. That was mostly for the segue, but it can messes with combat for sure. So Shriek Troublemaker is 2 and a hybrid Rakdos. So either 2 and a black or 2 and a red to pay for it. It's a 2/3 mutant villain. And at the beginning of your first main phase, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. And then she has an ability called Sonic Blast, which is whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Shriek deals 1 damage to that player. So it's like the opponent half of a Blood Artist attached to a thing that can mess with, like, hey, your biggest thing can't block, or the thing that you're trying to protect, that's the only thing that can block this turn. That kind of messing with combat is what Shriek is really, really good at. And then having a discard outlet every turn is really good in the decks that want that. Something that just lets you discard a card as a triggered ability, can't be outside of stifles and things like that. Can't really be countered if you're trying to discard for your mayhem or your madness or your reanimation spells, things like that. You just have access to that with Shriek. So this is
a May as well. So even if you don't want to even if you don't want to discard a card, you still retain everything about the bottom half of this does, is where anytime an opponent's creature dies, they take a damage. That you just don't even have to do the top part at all if you don't want to, But it is also nice that trigger doesn't fire off until the first main phase, meaning you will have drawn your card already for the turn.
You should always have access to this ability outside of someone messing with you drawing a card. But yeah, it kind of does what it says on the tin. I like its stats. 3 mana for a 2/3. I like being able to just dump something to say, like, okay, I need to get in this person. You can't block this turn. Or that creature can't block this turn. But I really think the best of the abilities is that Sonic Blast. That's whenever anything of your opponent's dies, that's not non-token. So any token creatures, if they're going wide, if you've board wiped, if you've whatever, all of these abilities will just throw a damage. Like, it's almost like Rakdos Charmy. The creatures, as they die, deal a damage to their opponent as they keep going. So this is an excellent card that does a lot of things for a really easy casting cost. Especially that hybrid mana means that in a Rakdos deck, you will always be able to cast this on turn 3, barring something going horribly wrong, and you only draw your utility lands for 3 turns.
Your turn 1 has been Reliquary Tower, Soul Ring, and then Temple of the False God. Oops.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, well, I've got 3 mana, but no Shriek. Yeah, that situation is not going to happen. So love seeing Shriek. I love these, it's almost a reverse Aristocrats, and I love it. Also, goodness, does it punish Aristocrats decks. And if there's any deck that needs to be punished, it's Aristocrats. There's so little that actually interacts with those decks because they benefit from removal. So having something like Shriek, it's almost like having a Mayhem Devil, something like that.
Yep.
That as they're sacrificing stuff, you can just kind of systematically pin down the things that you want to from them. But that's Shriek Troublemaker.
Similar with Mayhem Devil as well, by the way. Just last point about this. Shriek is the card that deals the damage, by the way. So all the things that you could throw onto Shriek herself is, say, her damage turning into Lifelink or her damage turning into Infect. Those are things that you can do. Do we need a creature to die? I think we need some removal. Let's play a removal spell.
Take me away.
Let me tell you about Wisecrack.
Oh, it's really good.
Wisecrack is so silly. I like this thing a lot. Again, this is eventually just going to circle back around to John's going to build Jeskai Swans of Bryn Argyle, and we're going to have a great time. But even outside of that, this card is very fun. Check this out. 2 and a red for an instant that a target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. If that creature is attacking, Wisecrack deals 2 damage to that creature's controller as well.
Yeah, we talked about this recently in Edge of Eternities, didn't we? What was that card called?
Yeah, it was it wasn't like Systems Override. It was
Reach the Hull or something like that.
Hull something or another. I don't know, but it was a card very similar to, this one. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's a card similar to like this as well, but it's another one of these where it is a targeted spell that both either for, as you can see there on the card, either it's like you control the creature or your opponent's controlling the creature as well. That's where the bottom half of this comes into play. Whereas like if you're using a spell like this as removal, as long as the thing coming at you has a like squared off or like a higher power than its toughness sort of deal going on, that it'll be able to shoot itself down. And real stupid, by the way, if that creature you're targeting is something with, say, Death Touch, because then it deals that damage to itself and just kills itself. And then
this takes out Shieldrids. One Wisecrack or one Phyrexian Praetor.
Yeah,
which one's gonna win?
The two damage to face if that thing was attacking, not even attacking you, by the way, as well. So just as long as that thing was attacking, very, very political pull there. It could be like, hey, I can save you against that threat that's coming at you over there. It'll deal damage to itself, and that controller will then take an additional damage of it. But then additionally, like I was joking about as well, this does not say a creature that an opponent controls. So this is once again one of these kinds of cards that slots into your red X whatever self-burn type of decks, your stuffy dolls, your swans. No, and this is great with swans as well, because it'll fight itself and be able to draw you cards.
In that case, it would deal 2 damage to itself and it would draw 2 cards,
which is cool. That's very cool. And then again, the other types of cards that want to be hitting themselves. You know what I mean? I'm going to make a deck tech for a deck like this one of these days. It's going to be Jeskai.
The Thoughtcast deck is just going to be Jeskai, Swans of Bryn Argyle.
Yeah. No, I like the flexibility behind this. Again, hashtag flexibility, but just all the basically the freedom of targets that you can do with this. You can hit your opponent's creatures. You can hit something that's not attacking you. You can hit something that's attacking you. You can hit your own creature attacking. I'm not sure what purpose that would serve, but there's probably an angle somewhere of you losing life during a turn,
If you're in a deck that wants to do that, you have a new toy with this. That's what we're trying to say. I will piggyback off of that with another piece of removal that is wacky. This is a really neat piece of removal that gets around indestructible. It gets around it can't die. There's so many things this gets around. So this is the Spots Portal.
Yes, sir.
This is 2 and a black for an instant. Put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. It is clean cut. I can't even really begin to understand the implications of that. It only makes me miss the commander tuck rule. When we used to be able to like tuck a commander, you could just Spots Portal would be a commander staple if the tuck rule still existed. For those who've only been playing commander for a while, you used to be able to permanently get rid of someone's commander by shuffling it into their library. That was the only way to do it. If it got exiled, you could put it back in the command zone, died, go back to the command zone, whatever you wanted to do. But the library was untouched ground. So you could like put a commander on top of someone's library and then force them to shuffle their deck in some way. Spots Portal would have been amazing.
That kind of rule was one of the original reasons why people still to this day hold on to cards like Chaos Warp so highly, because those used to be the premium commander removal back in the day.
Yeah, Chaos Warp has a very different meaning for me now. I play it mostly as enchantment removal in my red decks that don't have enchantment removal colors. So I would say Chaos Warp is still very good. And this feels kind of Chaos Warpy, where it's like I think the beauty of this is, like I said, if there's an indestructible creature, this gets around it. If there's a creature that has a really good death trigger, I don't know, anything. There, a billion commanders now have a great death trigger. The one I can think of that would hose me here is if you did this. Well, it's my commander. Never mind. I was going to say Slimefoot and Squee, but we literally just talked about how the Tuck rule, you could just put it back. But
well, hey, people don't underestimate that. Like constantly removing somebody's commander, that is a way to keep their commander off the table.
100%.
Commander tax does add up, and to the point that you said as well. This is not only a piece that can send away somebody's commander, but like you were talking about, a commander that would care about death triggers. This dodges it.
Yeah, you can also target your own creatures with this.
Yeah.
If you've played Thassa's Oracle early in the game, you could Spots Portal, Thassa's Oracle, put it on the bottom of your deck, Tainted Pact, name Thassa's Oracle, or Demonic Consultation, name Thassa's Oracle, find it at the bottom, your deck's empty, now you play it, you win the game. There's some... I would say that is never going to happen on a realistic scale, but it's cool that it could happen in theory. You know what I mean?
There's a 0.001% chance that you could catch somebody with this and say they're the one doing Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation, and like their consultation, they name a creature they have in play.
Yeah, 100%.
You just catch them,
get them
like that. Also, like, oh, sorry, you named you named Blood Artist. Oh, sorry, there goes Blood Artist to the bottom of your library. Hey, you get to reveal to Blood Artist.
Well, hey, I mean, this is also neat with things like a Laboratory Maniac. If your opponent has a Lab Maniac and they go to draw a card and it would end the game, you could just Spots Portal and put a card on the bottom of their deck. So this is all of the utility that's just secretly tucked away in a card like Spots Portal. And I just really like it. I like that it doesn't say destroy, but it still removes a creature. The 2 life is obviously negligible. There's a chance you have a villain in play, but I don't. Or
changelings, right? Life. You're black. You might have
100%.
changeling outcast.
You're changeling outcast, exactly.
Yeah.
There's some world where you're not losing 2 life for this, and that's amazing. But yeah, just a neat piece of removal if you want to try it out and just how it's also so fun. Like the fact that you're like, this is better than destroying a creature for sure. Like in a million world, because we talk all the time on the show about how graveyard decks have become a lot more prevalent in the last 5 or 6 years, and how when you have a piece of removal, you have to consider the fact that what you're removing might come back through some form of recursion. Like a lot of decks are just playing more recursion these days. So having Spots Portal, putting it on the bottom of their library is like 3 times as bad for a graveyard deck as putting it in their graveyard.
Yeah.
I mean, like it.
Yeah. Again, outside of those kind of things as well, like you had mentioned about this is a interaction piece that bypasses indestructible as well.
Yep.
So like you normally can't hit cards that are indestructible with pieces of removal and whatever. So
for sure,
this is a kind of card that lets you, again, keep it out of the graveyard as well. Like say it was some big, dumb, stupid, like indestructible reanimated thing that your opponent did. Hey, right back into the library with you, sir.
For sure. If you've got a Blightsteel Colossus coming your way, this deals with Blightsteel Colossus really well.
Yes,
because if they've gotten it once, they will get it again if you send it to the graveyard. And you can... Wait, is Blightsteel the one that can't go to the graveyard?
Blightsteel can't go to the graveyard, right?
I'm all over the place today.
It's still good hitting it when it's swinging at you,
You guarantee put it on the bottom instead of getting it shuffled in. See? Justification.
Hey, overall closing thoughts, spot removel. Thank you for being here.
Literally spot removal. Thank you, John. That's the episode, guys. Thank you for watching.
Hey, I know you like drawing cards.
I do like drawing cards.
Can I talk to you about
a card draw spell for me?
Yeah, it's kind of boring, but it's also very interesting. This, like, we've seen this headspace before with cards, but none of them have been worded this way before. And I think there's some interesting play with a card like this here. This is Romantic Rendezvous.
On my list as well.
We've seen these kinds of cards before. Those familiar with stuff like Tormenting Voice or whatever, this will read very similar. 1 and a red for a sorcery, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. That's all the thing does. But Check out what's there in specific, what is missing off of other effects that we've had before, like Thrill of Possibility, Tormenting Voice, Wild Guess, all these other cards that are like this, even those like newer ones from like Final Fantasy and whatever, all the cards that are a similar feel to this here. The discarding a card is not an additional cost on this card.
If you are empty-handed, this is just draw 2 cards.
Yep. And
It's
that's
perfect.
neat. And even like again, outside of that as well, one of the things that you could got by with a card like Tormenting Voice and Cathartic Reunion, whatever, is that additional costs on cards have to be paid before the card itself starts resolving. So you see those kinds of things with effects that say like, as an additional cost to cast it, you sacrifice a creature. Or in the case of something like Tormenting Voice, it says additional cost, discard a card. If your spell is then countered at that point, you don't get that cost card back into your hand in any capacity. You had to pay that cost for the card. You know, so this is a little bit safer of a bet, whereas you are not forced to dump a card out of your hand immediately until you know for certain that the card is going to start resolving.
Yeah. Have you ever had a Tormenting Voice reprieved or remanded? Because that's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's terrible. Right. Now, again, unlike there is still merit to cards like Thrill of Possibility at instant speed. This one is a sorcery, so, you know, take that for what it's worth. But also, like Joseph had mentioned, because we are not limited to paying it as an additional cost to discard a card, you can run this card into an empty hand, right? Like, that's one of the other downsides of a card like Thrill of Possibility and Tormenting Voice. If, like, say, you're already Hellbent and that card is the one that you draw for your turn, it's dead. You can't play it because you can't pay the additional cost. So this is a card that is not a dead draw into an empty hand. It's in that same wheelhouse as those like 2-mana red things that exile cards for you for like impulse play. Things like that nature. This feels very close to that.
Yeah. I actually was just about to draw some comparison to those where like on the scale from Tormenting Voice to Ren's Resolve, I say this fits kind of right in the middle, where I do play Tormenting Voice. I particularly play it in my Slime Against Humanity deck, which is my Spellslinger deck. And that one has use case because I like discarding those cards anyway. But, I mean, this is almost exactly a strict upgrade to that outside of the case where my Krark the Thumbless bounces it back to my hand and I'm actually thrilled of the possibility of dumping another Slime Against Humanity in the graveyard. Romantic Rendezvous is just another version of this, and it's an excellent one. I would say, like, in most cases, this is the best version of discard a card, draw 2 cards that they've printed at 2 mana. Really
like
excellent card. And that scene changed my brain chemistry as a kid. That was an awakening for me. So I'm happy to see it again.
As you know, as an enjoyer of Spider-Man media, I think I'm past the point of Peter being with Mary Jane. Honestly, they're not.
You're a Gwen man.
I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to go into
it's time to get into it, John.
Nope, we're not doing this. Point is, Romantic Rendezvous is a fantastic piece if you are running these types of cards.
Hey, speaking of Spider-Man, that can be the segue for every one of these. No, I don't. But what I do have is pictures of Spider-Man.
Oh no, get me pictures of Spider-Man. Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
This card is called Pictures of Spider-Man. I don't know how else to say this.
Well, what I meant is okay, go ahead. You lead in because I don't like this card.
Ooh, opposition. Pictures of Spider-Man is an artifact for 2 and a green mana. When it enters, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then for 1, tapping and sacrificing Pictures of Spider-Man, you can create a treasure token. I think this is banging. This is like stock up in the right decks, which stock up is cracked. And this feels very similar to me. Obviously, it's type locked to where you have to have creatures in your deck. You have to reliably be able to draw 2 creatures in the top 5. So that is, you want roughly 30% of your deck to be creatures for this to be reliable. And that is about 30 creatures in your deck. So I would say if you're running roughly that or more, Pictures of Spider-Man is just stock up and has some utility of sacrificing and making a treasure. So for 4 mana, it kind of rebates itself by 1. And I like that utility a lot. It also makes it really easy to recur it from the graveyard by the fact that it sacrifices itself.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I'll give you aspect points of there. Like you get the trigger of being able to get cards off the top of your library on a permanent that can blink in and out. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally cool. But I've made my case before about these kinds of cards that selectively pull from a parameter of cards. In this case, it's up to 2 creatures from a pull of 5. And these can whiff. These can always whiff, you know. The cost on this, and especially being a green card as well, this reminds me in the headspace of a card called Lead the Stampede, which I've never been a fan of because a card like that always misses. And truthfully, if you want to be getting a lot of creatures into your hand, you've got more access ways to be able to do that than putting a non-creature spell in your deck as it is. And then, you know, it's cool. Like you had mentioned that it can rebate itself to create you a treasure token, but you already got this down for 3. So now you're 4 mana invested in to create 1 treasure token. That is also a bad rate.
I mean, not necessarily. That's like Strike It Rich is attached to this card.
Yeah, but you already paid 3 to get it down in the first place.
Yeah, you paid 3. It's in the best of cases, it's replaced itself plus an additional card. And then on a later turn, you can just, again, I think the value in sacrificing it is more in getting it to your graveyard than it is in making the treasure, where there's a ton of ways to return artifacts from graveyard to the battlefield. There's a lot fewer ways to blink an artifact. So I think that being able to just throw it there and then incidentally getting a treasure with it as you're along the way is excellent.
I think I would have rather wanted to see this card be a clue, because then it would be in the right colors to synergize with clue synergy. Because I mean, look, it's taking,
but it's already drawing you cards.
Yeah, photography for newspaper articles, right? You know what I mean? Like there's no reason that this shouldn't have been a clue. You know, it's nice that it makes a treasure.
Let's talk about the flavor of it. You have the Pictures of Spider-Man. You sacrifice them by handing them over to J. Jonah Jameson. You no longer have those. And then he gives you a treasure for it. That's the flavor of this.
Yeah, I guess. I'm with you. It's not dreadful, but of your list of cards you've said tonight, it's not a favorite of mine.
Sure. Yeah. Well, take me to one that you think I might like, John.
Okay. I know you are a big fan of these enchantments that hose down creatures. You know, things that act as removal without removing the creature. And, you know, we already talked about Spot's Portal, but how about Spider-Man No More?
You have my intrigue.
Oh, yeah. So check this out. Again, very not like in the same wheelhouse of cards that we've seen before. It's 1 and a blue for an aura enchantment and enchants a creature. The enchanted creature is a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1. It has Defender and loses all abilities. It also loses all other creature types.
I don't like it.
You don't like this?
We've managed to find the one that each other doesn't like on our lists at exactly the same place in the episode. I am not playing this over the one that makes a legitimate business person.
Sure. Okay. So let me give you, like, for me, the key point on this that I think is very neat is the fact that this grants Defender, because what's one of the issues that comes about with these other blue aura type of cards that modify power, toughness, modify creature type, make them that they lose all their abilities, whatever, it still allows them to swing. And if that person can start making bargains around, because like you've thrown this aura probably onto something that you definitely do not either want to attack or have its abilities going off and whatever. And if your opponent has the option to even still swing that creature at all, somebody else could start making deals and barters to be able to block it so that that said creature would be either dead or, like, say it's their commander, you know, they can get their commander back into the command zone and then recast it again, and their abilities will start firing off on all cylinders again. And then now, while yes, you still have slowed them down a little bit, you still haven't solved the threat long term. Granting the creature Defender means that no matter what they want to do, like the only way that they're going to be able to get their proper creature back under their control is removing the enchantment, removing their own creature, or having somebody else swing at them. And then they'll block with this creature, which is something that happens with all the other blue aura modifying things anyways.
Yeah. Witness protection is the one that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So like for me, I think you make great points about it. For me, I think that witness protection, a lot of times that I've played it, kind of reads as it has Defender as well. It's just so much easier for someone to like keep it back and then say, please attack me, than it is for them to go like, I'm going to throw my 1/1 at you. Are you going to block it? The average deal is going to go, no, I'm just going to take one. So I think, I do think you probably want both. You know, like I'm not saying you want one or the other. Both of these do function to the same thing. Witness protection, enchants, loses all abilities, turns them into a green and white citizen with base power and toughness 1/1, except it changes their name to legitimate business person, which has some use cases with legendary creatures and things like that. This one, it just trades out that name change and gives it an extra mana to give Defender. And I agree. I think that that's a really good thing to be putting on this. It almost... it's not better than the one that makes it an indestructible bug.
Darksteel Mutation.
Darksteel Mutation is still my number one hose down your commander card. Shortly followed by Witness Protection, and this probably sits right about the same place as that. I don't mean to be too disparaging about it. I think it's a really good card.
I ripped into you about pictures of Spider-Man. This is our conversation back and forth. I did want to point out as well, there's another interesting key here as well, that like I know some of the other blue auras like this kind of do the same thing as well, but notice with this as well that this changes the creature type into just citizen. It loses all the other creature types. What's one of the other downsides to playing a card like this is like, say, one of the ones that turns it, like the one that you were talking about, it makes it into a green-white citizen, but if I recall, does it keep its creature types?
Hold on.
Because if it does, then you're up against like something that cares about shared creature type.
It does. It changes it to just citizen.
Okay. So that's still a good benefit that this card does as well, is that it will rip away any creature type that is being shared amongst your team or their team, I should say, at the moment that, would benefit them in some regard, even if it is locked down under an aura like this. Like there's use to be able to shut down everything on a specific card, including the option to go to combat.
Yeah, I mean, in my like mono blue decks, which I play pretty frequently, and not like that. I just want to be clear. I don't want to draw the hate of the guy playing mono blue. Both you and I play mono blue decks, but not like that.
I have a mono blue deck like that, but
no, your mono blue deck is Leer, isn't it?
It might
be
spells
can't be countered. Period. When people think mono blue deck, they're just thinking this is going to be counterspell tribal, and this is just not that. I actually really value Witness Protection over something like a Pongify or Rapid Hybridization for the use case of getting rid of commanders. Because again, as Commander has evolved and the format has evolved, the commander has become more important. It's the card advantage engine of your deck. Maybe it's the synergy engine of your deck. Maybe it's the finisher of your deck. And Pongify or Rapid Hybridization in those decks puts the opponent's commander back in the command zone where they can just recast it later on. And I hate wasting removal on commanders for that reason. Witness Protection and to some extent Spider-Man No More do this thing where I've taken care of your commander. I've said, this doesn't have any abilities anymore. It's a 1/1. You're going to have to figure out how to put this back in your command zone. And then I can move on to something else, and I can use my removal on things that actually stay in the graveyard or exile or whatever. So I still would value, like, I would say if I'm putting like 4 removal spells in a mono blue deck, I'm going Witness Protection, Pongify, Rapid Hybridization, and then Spider-Man No More. That's the order of those.
Yeah. Dope.
Where should I take us to next here? How about like a wacky
how many more cards? Like we got maybe time for one more?
Let me check our time here. Yeah, we have time for one more each. Why not? I'm gonna give an honorable mention. I'm gonna break the rules of our show for a second and talk about a rare because it's just so funky that I missed it. So I think it fits the prompt of the show, but not the rarity. This is Cheering Crowd. Have you seen this one, John?
Yeah, this is very weird.
I'm excited about this in my Rocco Street Chef deck, and I'll tell you why. Cheering Crowd is 1 and a hybrid Gruul. This is a rare. Sorry, we're talking about a rare today. Human
Rubbish.
Citizen. It's a 2/2. At the beginning of each player's first main phase, that player may put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. If they do, they add a colorless mana for each counter on it. So if everybody at your table takes the deal, this is like a tempt card. It's like tempt with mana.
Tempt with people.
Tempt with citizens. If they all take the deal, you play this card. Player to your left puts a counter on it, they get 1 mana. Player to their left puts another counter on it, makes 2 mana. So on and so forth, gets 3 mana, and then comes back to you. You now have 4 colorless mana coming back to you. Granted, the player to your right had 3 colorless mana for free. You've given them like a Black Lotus of colorless mana for free. Except this thing is also now a 6/6 by the time it's come back to you. And if you have any way to manipulate counters on this, it fires at your first main phase. So if you have ways to throw counters on this on your upkeep, if you've got like I don't know, it's something that throws counters on your upkeep. There's the big elemental that does that as players cast spells, gets counters, and then pushes things over. It's right here. That would put all the counters on it, and then you could take advantage of all that mana from Cheering Crowd. I love how goofy and political this is. This isn't like really a pick. I don't think the average Gruul deck wants this. But it's funny. 100%. Well, and so Rocco, as people are playing their spells from exile, he gets to put counters on stuff. So I can manipulate and continue to throw counters on this. And then it almost acts like a Gyre Sage for yourself, because it's like equal to the number of counters on it. But it's also just this massive beater. Unlike Gyre Sage, where you still have to tap it. You load all of your +1/+1 counters on this thing, and then you just have to tap it for mana. Cheering Crowd, you load all of your counters on it, you get all the mana from it, and you get to attack. So big fan of what Cheering Crowd is doing. And then, so that'll take up too much time. I'll just throw in my last like actual common pick for this is Steel Wrecking Ball. This is a slammer, dude.
I liked this thing so much.
I particularly like this. I just recently built a Tanuk Steadfast Second deck that wants to warp in artifacts. And one of the best things you can do is warp something in and then sacrifice it, because then you just have done all the things. So for 5 mana, Steel Wrecking Ball enters and it deals 5 damage to target creature. I'm already in on that. I love 5 damage to things. That kills most problems.
Yeah, everything dies to that.
Oh, it's the same reason why I like Annie Joins Up. Like that is a killer removal spell for 4 mana that then doubles everything. This one, 5 mana, enters, deals 5 damage to something, and then you can pay 2. Pay 2, discard this card. I misread that. This has a channel ability on it for whatever reason. You can channel the Steel Wrecking Ball to
throwing it.
Artifact.
You're either bringing it down to hit a creature, or you're throwing it to destroy the building.
I definitely read it as I missed this, and I added it to my list to talk about cards that we missed. I read that as sacrifice this card, but it is discard.
I mean,
this
that's
card,
still
still banging, dude. That has value on turn 2, value on turn 5. I'm in.
Right, because for those who have not played with those kinds of abilities like channel and whatever, those are considered activated abilities from the card in your hand. It's not a spell.
Yeah,
so
it can't be countered by traditional counterspells.
Yeah, they can still get stifled, and the activated ability itself could get countered or whatever, or redirected or something to that degree. But discarding it from hand, again, also not locked to sorcery speed, by the way. You see that?
Yeah.
You can it plays in that headspace of a braid, where it's like you can discard this, casting it more or less, and it shoots down an artifact of some capacity, which then puts this card in your graveyard, which, hey, guess what? The ability is red. What does red love to do with artifacts? Return those artifacts, right? Yes. Imagine early game, imagine your turn 1 is Goblin Welder, and then your turn 2 is this. And
Chunk
then for the rest of the game, you're changing this and another artifact. Yeah.
This is you rest of the game. Just finger guns pointed at everybody.
Yeah,
bullet in the chamber, just going, oh, you want to try? You want to try playing your commander? It's got 5 toughness? Wrecking Ball.
God, I would love swapping. Like, imagine going Wrecking Ball, Meteor Golem, Wrecking Ball, Meteor Golem. You know what I mean?
Just mono red destroy things. That's the Limp Bizkit tribal deck. That's just break stuff.
No, that's very cool. This is very good. And yeah, even though it doesn't do what you thought it did of like being able to sacrifice
the value
from the
still there.
battlefield.
Yeah. You nailed it.
There's still utility to doing a card like that.
Yeah. Sometimes I even miss cards while we're recording the Cards You Missed episode.
I didn't talk about a legendary creature yet either as well. You had brought up about Shriek. There was one really cool one that I was interested in because I think these kinds of effects are very, very fun. I wanted to just briefly talk about Molten Man, Inferno Incarnate.
Yeah, that was on my list as well, for obvious reasons, but you go ahead and read
it. Molten Man is 2 and a red for a 0/0 legendary elemental villain. When he enters, you search your library for a basic mountain card, put it on battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Molten Man gets +1/+1 for each mountain you control, and then when he leaves the battlefield, sacrifice a land.
Yeah, there is a card that's very similar to this. Do you have it pulled up? Do you have it off memory?
Off Dome. I try to think about it. It's from Modern Horizons. It was like this expedition something or another. He went and got a mountain, and then when he left play, or like he always had to go to combat if able, and then when he left play, you sacrificed a mountain specifically. I don't remember its name off Dome, but here it is. It was from Modern Horizons 1.
Alpine Guide.
Yeah, so this is like that.
It has a very similar ability to that, and it has extra utility attached to it as well. Just getting +1/+1 for each mountain you control. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, like talk about this as like a mono red shell, right? Like you've already gone mountain. You play him for 3. He tutors that 4th mountain. You've now got a 4/4 for 3 that can just go swinging in. And the really neat part that I like with this here is that while, yes, it might read as a downside of the fact that it says when he leaves play, you sacrifice a land, you, A, do not have to sacrifice that mountain you tutored for. He just says a land.
Yeah,
you can,
for sure.
You get to eat any land of your choice, which we now have a variety of different decks now. Again, Edge of Eternities had an entire precon who its whole focus was getting lands from play into your graveyard for value.
Yeah, it almost like, think of this like playing an Elvish Mystic, where when you play an Elvish Mystic, you now, for every turn that it's in play, you have an extra green mana. And if anything happens to that Elvish Mystic, you lose the ability to use that green mana. That's exactly the same upside and downside with Molten Man here, where when he comes into play, he finds you a mountain, and now you have an extra mana in your pool every turn. And if he leaves, you just lose access to that. And like you said, there's the utility of being able to fix your mana in that way. If you're playing a deck that isn't just mono red, you can go and find, a basic mountain, and then, you can sacrifice your swamp or something. This is immediately going into my Togo Casket deck. I will have you know that.
Yes. Yep. I imagine so.
Last couple of sets, that deck has been eating well between like Zeldinch and this. Zeldinch is actually kind of a similar card where it's like you can play an extra land every turn, then on your end step you have to return a land to your hand. Molten Man kind of reads like that, where it's like it enters, searches for a mountain, and then when he leaves, you just sacrifice it. So extra landfall triggers,
there's
sacrificing triggers.
There's probably something silly to do with like Blink or like making impulse token clones of himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like they'll come in, you get the fetch out of your library, and then they'll go away. And then you send those lands to your graveyard. You've got you got triggers that care about when your lands come into play, landfall stuff. Like we had talked about the stuff that cares. What was that? There was that red creature that was in the Edge of Eternity's precon who like gave you impulse card gas as you sacrificed lands, something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember its name, but it was one of those.
Mm-hmm. Anything like that. I think this is neat. I love, like you had mentioned about this, like it's sort of like is a ramp creature per se, where it's just instead of being a dork down in play, it's boosting itself by fetching you out specifically a land from your library.
Super good. Yeah, man, that was a banger. I'm glad that you covered that one because it was on my list as well. I believe that takes us to the end of the episode. We've made it through Spider-Man season, John.
Yeah. What did you I'm curious, like we have now been sitting with the Spider-Man set because like the entire spoiler for the set as a whole kind of came by very quickly, I want to imagine.
Yeah,
like we had
sure.
that early access preview thing, and then actual debut itself happened the weekend prior to the full set being spoiled, and then the full spoiler of the set was just a Monday to Friday, I think it was. So we've been sitting with this set now for quite a while, and like as a whole, what do you feel like this has landed? Like, has it hit a good spot? Has it felt kind of mid? Where are we at?
I think it's been mid. This is like a blip on this year for me. I think this is probably my least favorite set that's come out this year. It's definitely not my least favorite set ever.
I was gonna say, has this hit even lower than Aether Drift for you?
Yeah, I think it has actually.
Really?
It just doesn't feel. I think my fear going into this is that it wouldn't feel like Magic, and that's exactly how it's landed for me. Is like this just feels. It feels more like Outlaws of Thunder Junction than it does like a Magic set, where it's like, well, there's just so many Spider-Man cards that like it's overwhelming even with how small it is. I think I would have liked to see it expanded a bit farther into some of the abilities that the like villains have as spells, things like that, where I just feel like we didn't get a ton of that. There's a lot of like artifacts, there's a lot of there's a lot of, obviously a ton of legendary creatures, which I'm also just not a fan of. I don't love how many legendary creatures are in this deck. Yeah, it just feels weird, and it sort of sits in this uncanny valley for me of like it almost feels like r/custom Magic in a lot of ways, and it just I like what they did with it. I think that this is not a dig on the designers whatsoever. This is just a dig at this set as a whole. I also I don't care too much about Spider-Man. Like I'm not, of the two of us, I'm not the Marvel guy, so like this was bound to have some uphill climbing to become a set that I really enjoyed, and it just didn't do it for me.
Right. As much as people don't really like to admit that kind of thing, when it comes to these sets as Universes Beyond, personal drive towards a set really does depend on like what the theming and what the actual like IP is that is actually being crossed over. Like I could sit here and tell you that there were filled with fantastic, great cards in sets like Warhammer and Doctor Who and Lord of the Rings and things of that nature, even Fallout to an extent, right? There's probably all kinds of great cards in those. Myself never really had any attachment to any of those kinds of things, so they sat relatively lower in that bar for somebody like me. And I'm even still kind of even with you that even as somebody who is a fan of Spider-Man, I enjoy the Marvel stuff. I love a superhero moment. These kind of things is what I drive for. I'm even kind of in your same sort of situation where this set feels very like what the idea seems like is that somebody took the concept of what Spider-Man was and wanted to just apply what they could to the rule set that Magic provides. It's like somebody trying to make their custom trading card game using the rule set of Magic.
For sure.
And it works with some cards. It absolutely works with some cards, don't get me wrong. We just had this whole episode that we just went into some of our favorites from the uncommons, and we've talked for the last 3 weeks now of things like very cool commander decks that you can build, all the fantastic previews and things of that nature, everything at above, rare and mythic and things of like that. Like we're going to see how the Soul Stone plays out as far as a commander staple is concerned. Yeah. But I think like you had mentioned you would wanted to maybe see this set expanded. I want the opposite thing. I think one of the greatest Universes Beyond collabs that we've been able to see has been the crossover IPs that were just decks.
Oh, right? Dude, this would have been perfect for 4 commander decks. This would have been excellent.
You know what I mean? They had the design there with these modal double-face legends that we had seen that are in this set, which all are still incredible looking as well. Those are very cool cards. But I think if we would have just focused the idea of this crossover in just decks, I think we could have been a little bit more consistent. We could have had some deeper flavor cuts, more powerful cards, I'd want to say.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, let us know in the comments down below how you're feeling about the Spider-Man set. Does it tick the boxes for you, or like us, is it just not sitting quite right? I think the overall internet reaction would probably agree a bit more on our side, but I also know that's the vocal minority. If you love this set, let us know down below. I want to hear from somebody who's like stoked on this.
How'd your pre-release go? Yeah, tell us about your pre-release or whatever.
Yes, exactly. While you're down there, if you want to support the channel, if you've made it this far and you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit all of the likes, comments, subscribes, all of those things. We really love and appreciate everyone who's been doing that for us, keeping us going, keeping the lights on. Shout out to you guys for being here. If you want to reach out to us and you want to see an episode of a specific type, we're about to head into kind of our in-between release, and we're looking for some questions to answer for people. Let us know on our Discord, like we talked about earlier, link down below. Let us know in the comments. If you want to reach out to us on social media, that's Blue Sky for us. That's at MTG Thoughtcast, at Joseph-Thoughtcast, or at John-Thoughtcast. Or you can email us at mtgthoughtcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you next time on the MTG Thoughtcast.
Get me pictures of Spider-Man.